I wanted to show you this next stage. So I've mixed up the rubber, which is a Thixotropic mix now, with the Thixo liquid in it, and I'm applying the rubber. I've got a lovely thick coat of rubber on here already, so I can be quite rough. And I'm paddling it in because that paddling motion gets rid of the last of the air bubbles. I vacuumed the rubber anyway. And the key to this is to be systematic. So don't do a bit here, a bit over there. You just work your way up, focusing on what you're doing as you're doing it. Otherwise, you tend to leave areas and you can't see where you've been and where you haven't been. So it's very important to be systematic in the way that you operate. Plenty of rubber on, and then push it around to get a nice even thickness. You want about 5 millimeters of rubber at minimum over the whole piece. And again, it's a rush against time, so you want to be very diligent about what you're doing, but at the same time you haven't got time to mess around being slow. And using both hands is really useful, because it's impossible to get into some areas with one hand when it's facing the wrong way. So I'm just getting it in. And here on the clay keys, you want them to be covered nicely. You don't want them to look like volcanoes. If they look like a volcano, which is sort of that shape where it comes up to a peak like that, they won't work because they won't have any solidity to them. So they need to be a nice blended in rubber area so that they work as poppers. And by working my way up, I'm not hitting my hands on stuff that's been pre-rubbered, if you see what I mean. And that way I keep my hands nice and clean. I never wear gloves for this. I can't damage my own piece now because it's so thickly covered in 3 layers of liquid rubber. That's enough to stop me from damaging it with my metal blade now. So I don't have to be quite so careful. I've mixed up 750 grams. I know that I can easily manage 1,000 a kilo, but I'm starting with less so that I can gauge how quickly the rubber is going to go off. I don't know if you can hear this on the camera, but you can hear little pops like ricicles going off in a bowl of milk, and those little pops are the bubbles popping. So you want to keep going until the rubber is completely silent, which it is now. Here at the edge, you hardly want any rubber at all. The whole idea of this is to make sure that you're not wasting rubber. So you want rubber where it's needed, which is over the keys and on the sculpture itself. You don't want it on the edges of your plasticine, because an area here, about there, will be cut off anyway. And so the rubber is inevitably wasted. There's about a 10% wastage rate if you're economic. And there's nothing you can do about that as far as I can see at the moment. I'm pushing the rubber ahead of me here so that it pushes into all the detail and pushes the air out at the same time. So again, lots of rubber, and then push it in. So I'm being really methodical and diligent about making sure that I cover everything. I'm thinking about it as I go. You don't want any bald patches because they're quite difficult to see now because the rubber's the same colour. I suppose you could use a different colour, to make sure, if you're feeling nervous about it, that you cover everything. And this area here I want to fill up completely so that there's no deep areas to fiberglass into. I want everything to be a nice homogenized surface so that it's easy for me to fiberglass over the top. And I want extra rubber around the knees where they're high spots, because they'll be the areas where there's least amount of rubber. And now I've got some warm water with soap in it, and I want to get my hands really slippery. And I'm now pushing the rubber into place. I want to get rid of all the air bubbles. I want it as smooth as possible. It doesn't matter about water getting all over your rubber. It will cure underwater, so the water has no effect whatsoever. I'm just making sure here that I've pushed everything in. And again, like the rest of it, I'm working systematically around it. I'm not jumping from one place to another. You can see the air bubbles popping just here, look. We don't want those in it at all. So I keep going until those air bubbles are popped. And it's all nice and neat. There are no peaks on it. I don't want any peaks on the rubber. I want it to be, everything to be nice and rounded. And that makes that relationship between the rubber and the fiberglass really good. It means that there's no chance of you misaligning the rubber in the jackets. Lovely.